Hello and welcome to Game of the Year 2017. I'm glad you've enjoyed the content on the first year of my channel here, and this is Game of the Year, so I'm going to explain how Game of the Year is going to work around here. Now, for me personally, I've been doing Game of the Year lists on the GiantBomb.com forums for probably the last 10 years, since that site's been a thing. And this is the first year I'm doing this in video form, so how I do Game of the Year is kind of similar to what Giant Bomb does. I do a top 10 list like everybody else does, and I also I pull kind of some of the ideas they have from other categories, and I do those as well. So we will be doing categories such as Most Disappointing Game of the Year, Best 2016 Game I Played in 2017, Console System of the Year, what I think the best console was of 2017, and finally, Biggest Mess of 2017. What was the biggest mess of this year? This could be a game, it could be a situation, it could be a company. What is the biggest mess? For how these whole Game of the Year stuff is going to work, essentially what I'm going to do is starting today, at the time of you watching this video, there will be daily videos going on throughout December. I will be doing these categories. They're going to be split up into a video per category, and then I'll be doing a video each day for the top 10 games. So I'm going to probably, honestly, behind the scenes record one video and split it into 10 sections for the top 10. All of this stuff will be thrown in its own playlist on the channel. So I'm going to be counting down each day what my favorite games of 2017 are. But before we get to the top 10 list, I wanted to do some of these other fun categories, and they're going to get their own videos. So for this first inaugural video of 2017 Game of the Year celebrations here, we're going to be handling the most disappointing game of 2017. Now how this works is I pick a game, and then I also pick a runner-up as well. The most disappointing game that I played in 2017, this wasn't really hard for me to choose. In fact, I was so disappointed by this game that I forgot I even played it in 2017. And my girlfriend actually reminded me about it, and I remembered. I was like, oh yeah, that game was so disappointing that it pretty much wins this category. Now, before I tell you what that game is, the runner-up to this category is Star Wars Battlefront 2. However, this game that I'm going to talk about edges it out because it was the next entry in a beloved franchise that just honestly bombed out. But Star Wars Battlefront 2 will be definitely heavily talked about in some of these other categories. I was still massively disappointed with that game. I did really hate that campaign, and the multiplayer just didn't grab me at all either. And it is just disappointing, but I feel like it's so fresh in its disappointment that there are other categories that game suits more than Most Disappointing Game of the Year, so hence why that's the runner-up. The most disappointing game of 2017 for me is, of course, Mass Effect Andromeda. This is an incredible disappointment, and I'm still disappointed by that game. The important thing I want to note about Mass Effect Andromeda is it's not a bad game. I don't think it's a bad game. It is just a poorly written and at launch poorly executed game that they have since gone back and patched a lot of the glitches and problems with it, but it's too late. And that's the biggest problem. They only had a certain window to grab gamers' attentions with Mass Effect Andromeda, and within that 2 weeks they lost the attention. Longtime fans like myself were looking so incredibly forward to this game. It just shit the bed out of the gate. It just... what a disappointment, man. Like, none of those characters, I can't even remember a single character's name 7 months later after playing that game. That's saying something about that game. I want to say the Krogan guy's name was Drex, but I could be wrong on that. But I can't remember the other characters, their names. It was bad. It was really bad. I saw a lot of stupid glitches in that game. It was actually funny. So when I was recording footage to use for this video, I went back and I discovered when I finished that game, I didn't actually technically finish the final mission, because once you beat the final mission before it's completed, quote unquote, you have to go through and talk to all your party members. I never did that because I just didn't care when I finished that game. I just was so over it at that time. Like, I just don't care about this anymore. I also will note that I put 50 hours into Mass Effect Andromeda. I put 50 hours into that game this year, and I can't remember much of anything of that game other than it was just disappointing. And that's saying something. This is Mass Effect. This should have been huge, and it was such a bomb and just a thud. It should have been a bang, not a whimper, and it's just, man, wow, I can't believe at the end of this year I would tell you one of my most anticipated games of the year is the most disappointing game of the year. But that's exactly what Mass Effect Andromeda is. And, you know, honestly, like, I think in maybe a year or two, I might try to go back and play through it again, try to get another perspective on it, maybe. But right now, just... again, it's Mass Effect. Like, I should be standing here talking about great story moments, how great these characters are. How, you know, they brought back that multiplayer I love. Even that just didn't feel right. So it's disappointing. And again, I want to stress, like, whereas Star Wars Battlefront 2 I think is a bad game, I don't think that Andromeda is a bad game. It's just a disappointing game in the fact that its story was incredibly lackluster, and because of all the glitches and animation bugs and stuff when the game came out, it just lost its interest on me, and by the time they fixed all these problems, it just was whatever. So Mass Effect Andromeda, biggest disappointing game of 2017. I mean, hands down, what a disappointment that game is. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think the most disappointing game of 2017 is? I'd be very curious to hear your opinions on that subject. Keep tuned here for all the other Game of the Year stuff. Like I said, there will be new videos every day on some of these different topics. As always, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.